Can you switch points of view in first person? My name is Gina. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing better. You can. It is more difficult. There are a couple of mechanical things that you can help make it more clear, but the biggest piece of this is that you are going to have to develop some really, really strong character voices. And I do not mean relying on lazy cheats like spelling out dialects with a lot of apostrophes and misspellings and things of that nature. I mean like relying on developing good, strong character voice. George R.R. Martin is a master of this. You do not need to see the character's name at the top of that page to know instantly who is speaking because he has mastered the way that characters read on the page. Everything about character voice changes from one person to the next. They view and interact with the world, other characters, the setting, their place in it. All of these things are affected by who they are and their interiority, and that should be reflected in the way that you are writing that character's perspective. You will, of course, also have differences in word choice and cadence and rhythms of speech and what they choose to say and what they choose to leave unsaid and how they speak to certain people and how they interact with those other people. All of those things are also going to play a factor, but character voice is the biggest piece of this in making it clear who is speaking at any given time. And if that sounds hard, it is. Writing is hard. I hope I'm not the first person to tell you this. Now, a lot of that character work happens on revisions. And so if you are drafting or if you are in the early process of writing this story, and so you do not yet have all of those character voices locked in, there are some mechanical things that you can do to help make it very clear whose perspective you are in. I strongly recommend starting a new chapter for every point of view if you are going to be changing point of view, particularly if it is first person point of view. But if you are not going to change chapters, at least do hard section breaks where there is actual white space and possibly a dinkus on the page, but you have got a hard break to show that we have changed perspectives. If this means that you've got a scene break every single page or you've got a new chapter every 2 or 3 pages and you're like, whoa, Gina, that is way too much. You're right, it is. That also means that you are changing perspectives way too much. Your scenes are not doing enough things on the page. You are changing perspective because you want to like share one tiny little piece of something and you are not using perspective to its strongest effect. Perspective is the most powerful tool you have as a writer, and if you are changing every couple of paragraphs, you're not using it to its fullest extent. It can be used to withhold information, to give information, to convey everything about this character and the world and the way that they interact with it, and if you're bouncing around, you're not able to dig into that character's perspective, and you're wasting this opportunity. Inevitably, whenever I talk about this, somebody will jump in and say, like, just make it omniscient. And I want to caution against that. Omniscient is not nearly as popular as it was 50 or 60 years ago. And a lot of what newer writers think of as omniscient is actually multi-third person. Multi-POV third person means that we are jumping from one person's head to another. This is what Game of Thrones does. This is what Lee Bardugo does in Six of Crows and The Rule of Wolves. Like, so we are moving from one person's perspective to another, but we are still tightly bound in that person's head while we are in their perspective. You do get a lot of different perspectives over the course of the story, but it is not omniscient. There is still information being withheld from individual people and in those individual perspectives. Omniscient used to be much more popular. It is not popular with audiences now. It is very difficult to pull off and do in a way that feels authentic and not kind of corny, honestly. And so it is rarely worth the effort because the audience doesn't even really want it.